Now that you have a toddler, you may be wondering, are they talking enough? How much should they be saying? And when can you start to see speech development really take off? The first thing to understand about learning to talk is understanding. It's actually the most important part of learning to talk. Children need to learn to understand before they can learn to speak, and babies are doing this right from the moment they're born, but it really starts to come into its own once your baby turns into a toddler. So here are some things to look out for with understanding. Do they nod or shake their head to show that they understand when you're talking to them? No. Are you silly? Do they show excitement if you talk about things like we're going to grandma's house or we're going swimming? When you're talking to them, do they turn their head to look at you, especially when you say their name, but even if you're just talking about something that they're interested in? Can they follow simple instructions? So from the age of 12 months old, they might be a very simple instruction. When they get a little bit older, they can start to do more complex instructions like, can you put the toy in the box? And then eventually two-part instructions like, can you put the toy in the box and then put the lid on? While they're building this understanding, you'll notice that they'll probably start babbling and experimenting with sounds, but they might not be talking outright or saying full words. And this is really normal even after your child turns 1. Can you say up? Up. Can you say mama? That's a funny noise. Let's talk speech development and what's normal. It's usual for babies to say their first word around the age that they turn 1. For some babies, this might be at 10 months or 9 months. This might be for some not until they're closer to 16, 17 or even 18 months. They will start with probably one clear word. It's often mama or dada, sometimes no. And then they'll move to having 2 or 3 clear words, and they might stick with that for a little while. By the time most toddlers reach the age of 18 months, they'll probably be able to say between 10 and 20 words. This isn't the case for all toddlers, and please don't panic if this is the case for yours, that they're not saying this many words. I would advise you though to just think about how many words they can say and just jot them down if you want to count them up, because it's often the case that they can say more than you think that they can. By the time your toddler reaches the age of 2 years old, that speech will have developed and they will be able to say probably between 1 and 200 words. What a big difference in that 6-month period. At this stage, at 2 years old, most toddlers will be saying some words, and if your toddler isn't, or they're only saying very few, then this is the time that you would want to speak to a health visitor or a GP. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. Some children just don't develop speech until later on, some closer to their 3rd birthday, and there's nothing wrong. It just takes them a while to get there. But some children are struggling with certain aspects of speech development. So if this sounds familiar to you, then do mention it to a health professional. The thing that most health professionals will tell you to do, and you could do this beforehand, is to get a hearing test for your child. Because often, if their ears aren't working, they haven't got, as we talked about before, that first level, that understanding, which then helps them to develop the speech. So go and take your child for a hearing test if you think that there may be a problem. Remember, between the ages of 1 and 2, speech development varies wildly between each child. Just because they're saying words, it doesn't mean that they'll necessarily always clearly pronounce them or say them correctly. They all have those cute ways of saying various words, and they'll come to it in their own time. It's totally normal for that to happen. It's also normal for them to repeat words that they hear you say, but to not retain them in their long-term memory. So they might start saying a word and you'll think, oh, that's a new word for them. And then they'll forget it and they won't say it for a while. That's completely normal and the way that speech development works, and they'll come back to that word in time. My next video on the channel is going to be 5 steps to better speech, 5 things that you can actively do at home to help promote speech development with your child. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, it's free, and then have the notification bell turned on so that you don't miss it when that video goes live. In the meantime, here's a video that you might like to watch. I will see you all very soon. Bye everyone.